Years of drawing anime has taught me that knowing why for these methods is more important than following something step by step. What's important is knowing which drawing method works for you. I'm here to tell you what to look out for while drawing anime faces, so that you can draw confidently knowing the basics, and design your own anime girls. I'll be doing a semi-realistic, stylized, and super stylized face. Don't worry, you won't need super knowledge on anatomy. I'll boil it down for you. So a good method to try out is the bounding box. Here's the front, here's the left side, and then here's the top side. And you're probably wondering, why a box? It's because boxes are the simplest shape that you could draw that have all the sides that you would ever need. So all the sides you need to know are the front, left, right, bottom, top, and the back. So it's important to put them in bounding boxes because then you get to keep track of the angle of the head. So if I were to put a bounding box on both of these heads, we usually just see 3 sides of the cube. So that's a good reference point. So personally, I like to draw a circle first, like that. The reason why I wanted to talk about the bounding box is because that's where people struggle while drawing the head. I was drawing, circle. Now, I'm going to draw the midline. And so the midline is another important tool to use when you're trying to keep track of your shapes. So if I were to put a bounding box on the drawing I did, it'd be kind of like this. So if I were to divide the front face in 2, it'd be something like this. And just so you know, you don't literally have to draw the cube. You could just use your imagination. You've probably seen those videos that do a step-by-step, but what I want to teach you guys is that the how is not as important as knowing the why. So know why you're doing those guidelines. And what I want to teach you guys is to find the method that works for you. And so I like to start off with the middle here. In this case, the middle is her nose. Then I draw her eyebrows. The eyes. I'm not just drawing a straight line like this. I'm kind of imagining if this line were to wrap around the head and how it would form, right? Just like how this midline. Notice how I don't just draw a straight line like that, just like dividing it in half. Gotta make it rounded. You've probably struggled with drawing the eyes the same, right? I think everybody's encountered that before. What I like to do is draw one eye first. And notice that the way I used it, right, this line, I'm kind of connecting the corners. So this corner of the eye is touching, right, the line. And then this corner is also touching the eye. And so a good method, if you're really struggling to draw the eye symmetrically, is to remember the curve of the face. Now when I draw the eyes here, notice how they're all touching the same point. And I see the top of the eye is touching this line, and then this line. This corner of the eye is touching the same corner, like that. And then this corner is touching that. Yeah, this is how those guidelines would help. You could have your bounding box on to have it as reference, because technically the eyes, it never reaches the part where the face starts to turn. That's another tip. Now I draw the eyebrows. I'll just focus on drawing the face and getting all the angles right, and then eventually we'll work towards drawing an anime character. When it comes to the mouth, again, the midline is really helpful for this part. I'm able to gauge where the middle is, and gauging the middle is super important because remember, you see how this other side is smaller? It's because things that are closer to us are bigger, right? So it's the same concept. This side is smaller compared to like the lips on this side. What I'm really focusing on here is the shape, really. Just like getting the shape right. So right now, you could see that it's not exactly the traditional anime style, you know, that everybody thinks of, the cutesy, big eyes. But what I want you guys to know is that anime style is very, very broad. It's very varied, and it's not just one thing. This is the most important thing, is to keep it simple and to draw from realism, because everything draws from realism. Yeah, I want to start off with a more grounded style. When drawing the head shape, the chin, the part right here, the jaw, is actually the easiest way to sort of describe how masculine or feminine you want your character to be. Because you can see right now, the jaw shape that I went for it's fairly rigid, fairly chiseled. So now, I'm gonna soften it just a little bit. And now that we've used this reference, I'm gonna use the other reference and slowly work towards getting to that anime aesthetic. So again, I'm gonna go over the steps once more, but at this time, I'll show you the transition, basically, the pipeline, to making it more moe. Or I'll talk more about how I have the bounding box in my head. You know, you don't have to draw it every single time. And right now, I want to focus on the head shape and the eyes first, because those are really essential to get right. And hair and shading, those are like the victory lap. It'll be so much easier to do once we get this down. Yeah, so looking at this reference, again, if I were to put a bounding box on it, you see a lot of front and then the right side. I like to start with the nose because it's directly in the middle. Again, like I said, I'm going to lean more towards the anime aesthetic this time around. So sometimes, anime characters, they just skip drawing the nose. You can see that I'm exaggerating the eye shape a lot more. I'm starting to deviate a lot from the reference here. So you can see that they're touching the same parts, right? So the top eyes touching the top line, the corners, right? Touching the same lines, and the bottom of the eyes are touching the same line. If you want to do the anime aesthetic where they don't draw the nose, they actually just do this. They still follow through with the rules. They just get rid of it. So you can see that you don't have to completely follow the reference, right? You just have to get what you need from it. And in this case, I wanted the head shape because I feel like that's a big struggle for a lot of people. Here's where we start to deviate a little bit more, right? Because this one, it's pretty clear cut, you know, the head shape. But with anime, it starts being a little bit more stylized, you know? It doesn't have to be this rigid. Because again, like I talked about earlier, the jaw shape changes a lot about their features. And usually in anime, it's very round. It's harder to tell, because remember the bounding box method, right? I was telling you that there was a transition between the front to the right side. But in anime, it becomes very round that it's hard to tell when it starts to round out like that. It becomes much more soft in features. You can see that from the first part, it's stylized, but it's much closer to realism. But in this one, I'm starting to slowly inch into the anime style, you know, so I wanted to ease you guys in to get to this part. You can see that the changes that I did is one, the jaw is less defined, the eyes are way bigger, and then the nose. Even though the nose is pretty much like next to none, like non-existent, it still follows the curvature that I drew. Even though it seems like it's not following the rules, it's actually just bending them. So I'm going to use this reference again. And so now finally, I'm just going to go full anime now. Just bend the rules as far as I can. you know, the anime art style that everybody's familiar with. They're really cutesy, really moe style. Videos like these wouldn't be possible without our awesome patrons and YouTube members who help our mission of making arts education free and accessible for everyone. Become a member today and unlock cool perks like exclusive chats with our creators, access to class recordings, and critiques from instructors. Once it gets this stylized for anime, the head becomes like the main feature, and the eyes become the main focus. Because a lot of the time in this style of anime, the most distinguishing parts are the eyes and the hair. So that's also why I wanted to save the hair for last. Right now, you know, they're all bald, so I'm gonna finally start drawing the hair in. I'm gonna start off with this one again. The way I like to draw the hair is I like to divide it into simple shapes, just like with everything. Just turn it into simple shapes. So I'm gonna give like a really funny layout here first. I like to keep track of it as the bangs, and then the sideburns, and then the rest of the hair, you know, the back. Remember, when hair grows upward, like that. It goes upward and then down. So there's gonna be a little bit of space. I'm not just gonna draw directly on her skull, because that makes her hair look really thin. I'm gonna draw the bangs first, just like how I talked about earlier. I'm not drawing like all the individual strands, right? I'm just drawing them as simple clumps, you know, big clumps. And then her sideburns. Again, I can't stress it enough, you just focus on the shapes. Now, I think I want to make up my own anime hairstyle for this one. I won't copy her hairstyle for this reference. So here's how you would make your own style of hair. So I imagine she has like wavy hair. Yeah, so the way you could think of the bangs is it's a way that it frames the face. So you can see when I drew the bangs, I kind of picture something like this, where it's hugging the face like this. So if I were to divide this into the different shapes, so we have the bangs, right? And then just the back. And then, once you have the basic clumps, that's when I start to add all of the details. And I kind of want to spice up this hair a little bit, just make it a little bit crazy. This is what I want. I want you guys to experiment so that feel the freedom of learning. Just by drawing those simple shapes, I was able to plan out the hairstyle, you know, as I go along. That gives you that freedom. Last but not least, I might try like a crazier hairstyle for this one. This hairstyle, I want to go for something more unique, more bouncy, and as stylized as I could be. Because when the face is this stylized and simplified, defining features become the eyes and the hair. And again, paying attention to the bounding box one more time. Yeah, you can see that you could barely see the left side, so I'll be more focusing on the front. But now I'm starting to add more volume. more flyaways and strands and stuff. And I'm going for a more asymmetrical hairstyle here. Yeah, it's starting to take form. And then once it starts to take form, that's when you start adding the finer details. Once a character design is this simplified, a lot of the simple features become a lot more highlighted, like thicker eyebrows or like the hairstyle. If you're going for this cutesy anime style, the length of the face really does help a lot, because if the face is more squished, it makes them seem younger. And of course, last but not least, I'm gonna go over shading. And I'm just gonna go over a few tips. When you're shading anime faces, it still applies, you know, just think of their face as a simple shape. And so say that the light source is coming just like towards their face, like this. I'd say that'll be for both of them. For example, I'll use a multiply layer just to quickly describe it. If I were to think of a hair clump, and if the light source is coming from the same side, then it would be shaded like this, right? The bottom part would not catch light, and then the top part would catch light. As simple as that. Yeah, try to wrap your head around it and practice, I should say. Because it's one of those things where the more you do it, the more it makes sense, compared to just like explaining it. Yeah, so this back part would not catch light, so I'm just adding some shadows here. And then, when it comes to shading the face, there's two ways of shading anime faces. So I'll show the first one, where how you would shade like a human face. So for example, this side would be in shadow. Like this part under the neck would be in shadow because, you know, it's being covered up by the chin. And there you go. Like a quick, easy way to shade it. And now moving on to the other design. And then I'm actually going to lock transparency and kind of add maybe a nice blue in the bottom there. When shading the eyes, I like to do this. So if it's purple, I have to shift the hue a little, then go for like a darker shade like this. And then for the highlight, I pick a nicer, brighter color. Yeah, and funnily enough, for shading simple styles like this one, you don't have to describe the shape as much, it just has to be smooth. Yeah, because a lot of the time, for anime girls, you gotta make them look softer and less rigid in shape. Kind of adds a lot to their appeal. This is why I want to separate these two different styles of shading. If you're still struggling with drawing the face and the head, the eyes and all that, don't worry, we have so many videos helping out with just that, so be sure to check out the links in the description. The most important part is that all of this came from a photo. All this came from realism. From realism, we were able to just expand on it and put our own twist to it, because anime is a style and it's an interpretation of rules. Join a virtual art class to learn live from our professional artists. Get creative assignments, individual guidance, and real-time feedback on your artwork. Start today and level up your practice.
If you learned something new, please like and share this video with a fellow art nerd. If you love receiving quality and free arts education, subscribe. Here's a couple other videos you could check out next.